Now, with me now is Michael McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia and an NBC News international affairs analyst. Ambassador, we appreciate you being here today. Just first want to get your takeaways from this call between Presidents Trump and Putin, this 30-day pause and strikes on energy and infrastructure. Is this a positive step forward?
Very small little positive step. And already there are reports out of Ukraine that Putin today is attacking energy infrastructure. So if it was a ceasefire, it only lasted a couple of hours, not 30 days. But the big takeaway here is that the Ukrainians reluctantly, under a lot of pressure from the Trump administration, agreed to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire in Saudi Arabia. And today, Putin disagreed to that. I think that's the headline. He had all kinds of conditions that the Ukrainians can't meet, that they can't mobilize more soldiers in their country. Think about the infringement on sovereignty that is. They cannot import weapons to their country, another infringement on their sovereignty, and they can't receive intelligence from the United States. Those are his preconditions for a ceasefire, let alone a peace agreement. So we're a long ways from a ceasefire, let alone a permanent peace.
Well, you mentioned an important point that I wanted to bring up with you, and Richard brought this up too. And I'll actually read you the line from the readout from the Kremlin on this call, where it says, a complete cessation of foreign military aid and supplies of intelligence information to Kyiv was emphasized as a key condition for preventing the escalation of the conflict and the work towards its resolution through political and diplomatic means. And you've been reacting to that to some degree. How much does that really stand out to you? And should we read into the fact that aid and intel for Ukraine were not in the White House readout from this call today?
That's a great point. So what you just read there is a key precondition. And what it says is Putin already has received a lot of gifts, a lot of concessions from the Trump administration, no pressure whatsoever. Unless it's happening behind closed doors, I've seen no public evidence of anything that Putin has had to concede. So instead of agreeing to that, he pushed for more. And now you're seeing it there, right? I'm going to ask for more. And I think the Trump team and President Trump himself have to reconsider their strategy here. Rather than just conceding everything to Russia, maybe they have to begin to negotiate with Russia, to trade things. That's diplomacy 101. And the fact that Putin just decided to bomb energy infrastructure, if those reports that I just saw a few minutes ago turn out to be true, I think is humiliating for President Trump. I think he's got to understand that Putin understands strength. He only respects strength, and just continuing to try to appease him is not going to lead to a permanent peace deal.
You know, when President Zelensky was here in Washington, there were a lot of discussions about U.S. security guarantees for the Ukrainians, right? Can there be a lasting deal without some significant security guarantees?
In my opinion, no. And the evidence for that is the previous ceasefires that the Ukrainians and Russians signed before. And in fact, right after he was elected in 2019, President Zelensky sat down with President Putin. Everybody can go search it up with Europeans, and it was trumpeted historic moment. The war is finally over. 3 years later, Putin launched his full-scale invasion of Ukraine that's been going on ever since. And so the Ukrainians, I think, are right to worry that just signing another ceasefire without real security guarantees to prevent Putin from invading again is not a good deal for the Ukrainian people.
So if we say that this ceasefire agreement has some veracity at this point, right, there are still questions among a lot of people about whether you can trust Vladimir Putin to abide by an agreement. What guardrails or enforcement mechanisms do you think need to be in place? What should consequences look like?
Well, first, he's already violated the ceasefire he just signed. So those that want to trust Putin, I think, are making a major mistake. And by the way, 80% of the American people, if you look at many different public opinion polls now, do not trust Putin. I hope President Trump stops trusting Putin. And I think to guarantee peace, we have to talk about security guarantees. We have to talk about peacekeepers in Ukraine. We have to talk about increased military assistance. If we cut off military assistance, Ukraine will be vulnerable. Of course, the best security guarantee would be membership into NATO. Russia has never attacked a NATO country, and importantly, NATO countries also haven't attacked Russia or the Soviet Union. By the way, Ukraine has. Ukraine invaded Russia. I think that is the best security guarantee, but tragically, President Trump has taken that off the table for now.
Just a few seconds left here, but I do want to ask you about some numbers that we've seen in our latest NBC News poll. This shows that a majority of Americans sympathize with Ukraine. That's compared to Russia when it comes to the current war situation. But when you break it down by party, there is less support seemingly among Republicans here. Instead, most Republicans polled said that they don't favor either side. Does that partisan divide surprise you in any way?
Yes, of course, it's shocking. I mean, this used to be the party of Reagan, the party of freedom, the party of peace through strength. It's just amazing how far that party has gone in just a few short decades. I hope it's not permanent, because I think America's long-term security interests are through supporting democratic countries like Ukraine and standing up to dictators like Putin. But right now, this is a troubling sign, although the overall numbers are very encouraging. I think most Americans understand the difference between good and evil, dictatorship and democracy, and who started this war. They understand it was Vladimir Putin.
All right, Ambassador McFaul, we appreciate your expertise today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.